Software to Die For, the PROMIS software scandal and how the U.S. Justice Department became software pirates in the name of national security, with Ted St. Rein. Or Teed, if you prefer. Brought to you by ToorCamp and ToorCon.org. Check them out. www.mediaarchives.com proudly presents this material. Thank you for watching. Also check out www.promisscandal.com. See you soon. Okay, great. So here we are at the ToorCamp, ToorCamp.org. We've basically been filming an event here in Washington State at a Titan I missile silo. And it's all about hacking. And so if you wanted more information about that, go to ToorCamp.org. But right now we're here to talk about the PROMIS software scandal. And it's been something that's intrigued me for many, many years, 20, 25 years now, almost my entire adult life. And let's see, where did my clicker go? There it is. And so basically, in the current market, a good friend of mine helped write a book with another friend of mine, Jim Keith, called The Octopus, The Secret Government and the Death of Danny Casolaro, which is what we're going to talk about here today. And so there's Ken and his little conspiracy zine called Steam Shovel Press. And so we basically, yeah, let's cut to that. Sure. Yeah, and so basically Jim Keith and Ken wrote this synopsis about Danny Casolaro, and they basically wrote this book that's available now on Amazon. So this is Danny. I guess I should dedicate this presentation to Danny's in Danny's memory, because he's no longer with us. He wouldn't have really enjoyed a book like this. I should point out that Jim Keith, who isn't in this photo, but we'll see him later, he also died actually at Burning Man a few years back. And so a lot of people associated with this story have died in one way or another. In fact, there's some researchers say there's up to 40 people who have died under mysterious circumstances associated with this story. And so hopefully we're not one of them. Anyway, so this is Danny. We're going to be talking about him a lot later. And so there's this octopus. Danny was investigating something called the Octopus, and the Octopus basically had wanted to control everything, all of our basically entire society, our infrastructure, our who we pay our taxes to, what the whole thing's about. And so so this octopus basically came across this piece of software called PROMIS, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And so basically back in the 1970s, they had the same problem we're having today, in that a lot of the data that they were collecting from a lot of these different systems were basically just overwhelming them. And in the 1970s, something called the LEA, the Law Enforcement Assistance Administration, I think it was, put out a contract for a series of software development projects to help reformulate the Justice Department's software basically for case tracking. And so we'll see, let me just skip forward a moment. And so this is basically what it was, the Prosecutor's Management Information System. And it's basically PROMIS for short. Some people call it PROMIS software. And so this is what they were after. They wanted to revamp the entire basically court tracking system. Basically what they were using was the equivalent to Lotus 123, and what they got was something that was very different. What they needed was something that, rather than searching hierarchially, from A to Z, for an example, would go out and get everything to the least common denominator, and go out and search everything at once, and then come back and sort it all out and figure out what all that stuff was, and then make information out of it. In today's age, that would be like Google or something, you know.
It sounds like WebBot or something.
WebBot, or just any of the any of this stuff that's out there now. We'll see as the presentation goes on that a lot of the things that happen out here now, especially in terms of Trojans and viruses and things like that, are exactly what PROMIS was designed to do, because PROMIS was a data miner. And so we'll see here in a minute, and in fact, let me back up a slide to this enterprise slide, because today we call it enterprise or the cloud or whatever. And so basically, what it was designed to do was go out, and it didn't matter what system it was on or what, where it was at, depending on what system it was installed on, it would basically go out and get everything down to its least common denominator, and then bring it all back and sort it all out, and then spit out some information. Unlike any other software at the time, in 1978, 1979. And the company that released this software was called INSLAW, the Institute for Law and something, something, something. They're actually still in business, believe it or not, after being almost driven out of business by the government, as we will soon see. And so there's this PROMIS software. And here's an example of basically what it could look like, because it's out on the market today. And so this is basically an example of something that PROMIS might do, and it was the first software to let somebody figure out, like, be able to sort by a defendant or attorney involved or whatever. You know, they could sort by all these different things. It's like Excel is today, but you know, today what they needed mainframes to do before, of course, we can do, you know, on a MacBook Pro. But at the time, this was like revolutionary software. And of course, you guys probably know this guy, Alan Turing, developed theoretical models on something called the Turing machine. It was basically one of the earliest computers. And so, but using the same basically, and so this is basically just a demonstration of what a basic flow chart is. I mean, it's kind of just something funny. We eat some food, we go out and bomb some people. Here we are at a missile silo out in Washington. I thought it was all very funny. But anyway, so that's normally how data is processed. But in today's age, of course, we're all used to this matrix and this parallel processing where we get everything down to that least common. We're used to that now, but back then, that wasn't the case. And so it's very interesting that basically everything we built, everything today that we built on is all based on this kind of computing power. And so basically, PROMIS wanted to get down to that root level, figure out all the data, and try to make sense of it, and then bring it all back. It's basically almost artificial intelligence at the time. And we'll soon see that they use this kind of software to basically develop almost all the technology that we're used to. Today, you know, we know it as like the social network, you know, so we go out and, you know, do our blasters events and things. Yeah. And so, you know, I'm also involved in a lot of other interesting subjects, sacred geometry, for example, all sorts of paranormal and metaphysical things. I was actually going to present a presentation here on what's called the God helmet, and using cross-rotating electromagnetic fields to basically induce hallucination. That's why you see God when you're on this helmet. Like 80% of the people reported having some kind of religious experience when you put this helmet on that's got these electrodes. Michael Persinger from University of Toronto in the 1980s, believe it or not, researched all this stuff. And the reason they used helmets, they used football helmets, because he was at the university, and so he was using his friends that were football players as subjects. And so they brought in a helmet, he fitted it with these electrodes. And as we'll soon see, that this same stuff is what PROMIS is used to. And so it's very interesting that this same social networking and getting down to the least common denominator is basically found in nature everywhere. You know, we have different fractals that represent this kind of basically what we today, you know as, you know, computers. And so, and of course, this is a blood vessel in the brain. It just goes all the way out. And you go look at the spiral arms of galaxy, and it all follows this one ratio, the Fibonacci spiral. You guys probably heard 1.618, you know, 59385 or something. And so it's interesting. I find this interesting because this is what PROMIS did. Is it got at all those little tiny tips at the very ends of the blood vessels, and it got all that back and brought it back to the central root, and then was able to do something with it. And so same thing with like molecular engineering and biology and different things like that. We will see here in a minute. You know, I should probably, here, go ahead and cut to me real quick. I should go into presentation mode here because I do have some notes. The notes. Yeah, and so this is, this subject's like totally fascinated me since it came out. I mean, the Danny Casolaro story broke in 1991. And you know, ever since then, and what caught my eye was a Barron's Financial Weekly article. They ran 4 weeks. Barron's Financial Weekly is a huge financial thing that's still in business, believe it or not, out of London. And they ran like 110 column inches, like 4 full pages. Yeah. And so, well, Barron's was trying to, they weren't trying to solidify anything. It was financial news. The government was stealing this software, and nobody was doing anything about it. And now people were dying, and people that were investigating were being murdered in hotel rooms and in weird car crashes, and who knows what, you know, who knows what what lies in this plumbing. And so basically, PROMIS was also good for basically biospecific weapons is what it was used for. But we'll talk about more of that in a minute. And so. And so, as an example of, you know, we have this social network now that uses these kinds of tools. You know, we're used to this kind of processing that was brought upon us. And when you look at things like viruses and worms, we'll talk more about this later, basically this is what PROMIS did. It went out there and mined data, just like these things, and they sent it back to a central server and it got processed. And so we'll talk about this in a minute, but what Google's doing, what all these places are doing, the NSA, you know, there's an Echelon post just close to here. Yakima, Washington's got a huge, you know, post right over here, man. They're listening to us. But anyway, so.
They could be among us.
Yeah, well, no, they will be now because I'm posting this on, you know, on YouTube next week. So, you know, we're tied into that now. We're all part of that. We're part of basically what this all represented.
That's
and
basically what Emmanuel said last night.
Yeah, I mean we're on, and he's been in it. You know, he's on the cutting edge. And it was funny. He referred to me almost like Jesus the other day, because I do a lot of technical stuff for a lot of hacking shows, but including his the nexthope.org. Anyway, so, and also I have this website all about this. If you're interested in getting the slides or watching this video again, you can go to PROMISscandal.com, PRMIS, scandal.com, 2 S's there. And so, so we basically have all this, these social nets, and we're basically, this is what we're doing. We're trying to process this data. I mean, I have terabytes of data at home. I have 20,000 hours of video I'm trying to process. You know, it's like 45 terabytes or something. It's just an incredible hard thing. And so we get into these algorithms where basically, you know, these computers start figuring stuff out on their own. It's just ones and zeros, but they can make a pretty good judge, you know. And when this software came out, you know, like plate recognition software and all this, you know, face recognition, all these different, you know, they weren't really around. And this is basically what started it, was these kinds of basically kinds of software. Anyway, we'll talk about Google later, but they do the same thing. Basically, Google goes out and grabs as much data as they can, brings it back, and, you know, puts it on your desktop. You know, what a great service. We'll talk about Google later. And so I'm sure you're all familiar with the Kryptos key here in the being in the hacker community. And so, you know, in the courtyard of the CIA, there's this Kryptos sculpture. And, you know, it took years and years, and finally somebody, you know, solved a key for it, and they've deciphered all but, you know, one of the 4 passages. And so so this is what PROMIS was good at, is it would go out and be able to do this, you know, 20, 30 years ago. Of course, today we all have fiber optic and everything. And of course, we also have Big Brother. And so so this is where it all, like all this technology combines. And it's also why this was such an important story, and why Barron's Financial Weekly and Spy Magazine, Wired's ran like probably a half-dozen articles on it, you know, and they keep up to date, you know, when something new comes out. When I get killed, they'll hopefully write a story.